We all go to bank and an advisor asks us some information, some personal information like name, address, sometimes SIN number, and even government sometimes asks us these information. These are all personal information. Have you ever wondered, okay, every organization is getting our information. Are my information safe? Like, is there anybody that protects our information? What if somebody misuse, or what if somebody like share my information with others? In this lecture, we're going to talk about two laws, PIPEDA and privacy legislation. These laws ensure us that, hey, our information is safe. There are some limitations in place, like who can access our information? What can they use our information for? Can they share our information with? Okay, in this lecture, we're gonna learn everything about PIPEDA and Privacy Act. Let's get it done. Privacy legislation, more specifically, Privacy Act and PIPEDA. So, what's privacy legislation? You, as a mutual fund dealing representative, you must, you know that you must collect personal information from your clients when opening an account. Name, address, everything, all um, information, personal information. But you must keep this information that you collect private. So, privacy legislation are laws that protect this information. These laws control how personal information is collected, used, and shared, ensuring it stays safe and confidential. Because if breach of information, personal information happens, the client will be in a huge danger. Let's elaborate this whole privacy legislation with a scenario and example. Imagine you are a financial advisor at a bank, and a new client named Sarah has scheduled an appointment. She came to you and she wants to open a TFSA or RRSP account and start investing. Now, after a warm greeting and offering a coffee, maybe, you begin the process by helping Sarah fill out some forms. What are those forms? New Client Application Form, or NCAF. To create her account, to open an account, you need to, or Sarah needs to, fill out the new client application form and know your client, or KYC form. What's KYC form? That form is required to understand the Sarah's financial goals and risk tolerance. So, actually, these two are not separate forms. These two, in some institutions, these are just one form, okay? Because these two forms have lots of overlapping items. So, by filling out these forms, what are you collecting from Sarah? You are collecting Sarah's personal information. Like what? Like name, date of birth, address, employment, maybe SIN number, her income, her investment goals and risk tolerance. Um, so you're collecting these information from Sarah. But there is a point here. Sarah must, okay, here it's must. Sarah must consent to Zero accessing her data. So what's Zero? Zero is SRO organization. These information are shared with Zero because Zero wants to protect Sarah. How can Zero protect Sarah without having access to her information? So Sarah must consent, okay? It's not optional, it's a must. It's obligated, mandatory, okay? Now, if Sarah refuses to allow her information to be shared with Zero, what will happen? You legally cannot open her investment account. This is because Zero needs access to client data to enforce regulations and protect the integrity of the financial system. That's why it's a must thing. Great. Um, so we've, I mean, you as a mutual fund sales rep, you complete and fill out some forms with Sarah. You help Sarah fill out those forms. Now, Sarah might wonder, how do I know my personal information is safe? She will ask you, okay, how do I know my personal information is safe? Now, you, as a financial advisor, you follow privacy laws here, okay? Those laws set strict rules on how you collect, use, and share. Remember, collect, use, and share her information. So, there are three uh, laws. We have PIPEDA, we have Privacy Act, and we have provincial privacy laws. Okay, what's PIPEDA? PIPEDA or is Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act. This is Canada's private sector privacy law, okay, which protects how businesses handle personal information. Businesses like banks, investment firm. So PIPEDA is a act, is a set of rules, okay? Banks need to follow those rules on on collecting and sharing personal information of their clients. Okay, the second rule that is related to privacy of the client is the Privacy Act. This law applies to government institutions and protects personal data they collect. So, PIPEDA was for federal and private institutions like banks, investment firms, but the Privacy Act is for government institutions. Okay, and the third one is provincial privacy laws. Provinces like Quebec, Alberta, British Columbia have their own privacy laws, which replace PIPEDA in those regions. Okay, so PIPEDA does not apply to all provinces. Specifically, these three provinces, which are Quebec, Alberta, and British Columbia, they have their own provincial privacy laws. Great. So, all of these laws, these three laws, they ensure that Sarah must give consent before her information is collected, used, or shared. So Sarah signed that form saying, okay, I consent that you collect, use, and share my information. If you notice, every form that you fill out in a bank or investment firm or any financial institution, there is check mark saying you need to check that saying, okay, I consent that, blah, blah, blah. That's the thing that you are consenting to share and to give your personal information. These rules also ensure that Sarah has the right to access her personal data and correct any errors. So let's say bank collects Sarah's information and her date of birth is November 19th. But when she creates an account and after, I don't know, a month, she noticed that in her profile, her um, date of birth is mentioned as December 19th. It's a wrong thing. So Sarah needs to have access and correct any errors. Okay. These rules ensure that then These rules also ensure that Sarah's information is only used for its intended purpose, like opening her investment account. Okay, it cannot be used, or it cannot be shared to other data looking company for another purposes. Okay. Last but not least, these three rules ensure that financial institutions must keep her data safe with security measures. Okay, they cannot just put the Sarah's data in their website without any security measures. Okay, I mean everything is now stored in a cloud, obviously, and that cloud needs to have a very serious security measures. Great. Now let's get to the sharing part of the information. So Sarah's information might be shared with certain organizations, but not always, when necessary. For example, what are those organizations? We said that zero, the SROs cannot be restricted from access to personal information about clients under privacy legislation. We talked about it. Since the SROs need access to personal information about clients to fulfill their regulatory obligations, they issued a joint regulatory notice on federal and provincial privacy legislation, the joint notice. So, in summary, that joint note, they signed something with provincial privacy legislations and PIPEDA saying, hey, this is called joint notice. Okay. Hey, I want to access your client's personal information because I want to protect this industry and the client and the firm and everyone. Okay. To protect everyone, I need to access to this information. Uh, Another organization that the Sarah's data or client's data may be shared with is CRA, famous Canada Revenue Agency, might need Sarah's SIN number for tax reporting, for example. Also, the investment firm's compliance team may review the Sarah's KYC form. So we said that every um, financial institution, bank, investment firm, everyone has a department called compliance department. That department may access to Sarah's KYC form, which consequently have access to Sarah's personal information. Okay. We said that Sarah's information may be shared with Zero, with CRA, with investment firms compliance team, but remember that no one can use or share client's data, in our case, Sarah's data, without a valid reason or her consent. Okay. There should be a reason to access to her information. They cannot just access it without any valid reason. Now, let's imagine Sarah suddenly wants to deposit a very large amount of money in cash. So this rings a bell, and you may say, okay, it's a red flag. Okay. This might be a red flag for money laundering. As a financial advisor, what should you do? You must report the transaction to your firm. To be specific, to your firm's compliance team or department. But remember, you should not let Sarah know that you are doing it. Okay? If Sarah is depositing large amount of cash, you can't just say, okay, Sarah, I want to report you because it's a red flag. No, Sarah shouldn't know about it. You just report it, document everything. Those details that we talked in previous lectures, okay? You have to document them and then report it to your compliance department. Remember, you have to follow anti-money laundering procedures to ensure compliance, even if the transaction doesn't go through. So, you may not deposit Sarah's money in her checking account because she looks suspicious. You still need to document and report this event, okay? Even if the transaction didn't happen, okay? Keep this in mind. Then, when you report the transaction and event to the compliance team, the firm's compliance team, may review her KYC form. In case of fraud prevention or financial crime, information may be reported. That's the example of how compliance team will get access to Sarah's information. Great. To sum it up, okay, every client has personal information. You as a future mutual fund sales rep and as an awesome one, you collect information, okay? And you use them for certain interactions and certain transactions. And you can share them for valid reasons with specific organizations that we just name it. This whole slide, this whole lecture shows how the personal information of the clients are protected. How can they be shared with other agencies? Great, you're doing a great job. You're crushing it. Please take the quiz and you may see what type of question you may get from PIPEDA or Privacy Act. I'll see you in the next lecture.